Welcome back. Time now to talk politics. I'm joined by Andrew DeMillo, who covers Capitol politics for the Associated Press. Good to have you with us. Thanks for being here, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
Let's begin. We got so much to talk about this week, and it doesn't involve Georgia or Arkansas football. I'm going to tell you that right now.
So. Luckily, I'm biased. So.
Let's talk about the State Treasurer Martha Shoffner. She certainly made some headlines on last Friday, and then this Monday when she didn't show up on Friday for a meeting with the Legislative Audit Committee. She did show up on Monday, but we really didn't learn a whole lot more. But give us a kind of a capsule summary of what happened on Monday at the legislative hearing.
Yeah, and it was not a good day. It wasn't a good week for her, really. She appeared before Legislative Audit on Monday, but it was only after she had been subpoenaed by lawmakers. She was originally supposed to appear before the Legislative Joint Audit Committee on Friday to discuss an audit that really raised a lot of questions about the investment practices of her office. Friday morning, at the top of the meeting, the chairman of the committee said she was not there. They were going to issue a subpoena to compel her to testify, which that in and of itself is not that unusual for other officials. You know, the audit committee has subpoenaed local officials before who have not appeared, but this was the first time that legislative staff could remember a constitutional officer, a statewide officer, being subpoenaed for not appearing before a committee.
And I'm older than you, and I can't remember that ever happening before either. It was pretty unprecedented in that respect.
Yes, definitely. And created kind of this bizarre situation on Friday where no one really knew where she was. You had state police looking for her to serve the subpoena. And still, we haven't really gotten kind of a full explanation of exactly where she was, other than to say that she was at an economic development meeting in Jackson County, but hasn't really said who with. She apologized for missing the meeting, showed up on Monday, and that's really where things got even more interesting.
Because she didn't answer too many of their questions. She wanted to research a lot of the questions that they had for her. And tell us too what happened with the deputy in her office, her chief investment officer, Autumn Sanson.
So the committee, the audit primarily focused on these bond transactions. 11 bonds that were sold before they matured, and auditors said that it resulted in net economic loss for the state. And that's where a lot of the questions were. And she didn't really have Shoffner really didn't seem to have a good explanation of why it was done that way. And her chief investment officer, one of the first questions she actually asked lawmakers was whether or not she'd be protected as a whistleblower for answering questions about it.
That sets off a little bit of an alarm there, doesn't it, with legislators?
Yeah, definitely. And she ended up testifying that she had advised Shoffner against selling these bonds early. That's an accusation that Shoffner has denied, before a committee in an interview with me later. She also denied it. But the investment officer had said that she was concerned about this, and that's why she had asked for the whistleblower protection.
So let's talk about where this goes next. Legislative Audit is continuing their investigation of the office. There's going to be another meeting probably sometime in October where Shoffner will come back and appear again. You've got sources, I've got sources. This thing is going to get bigger and broader. Do you agree with that statement? And if so, kind of where do you think it might go?
I'm not really sure where it's going to go, but you're correct. This is not going to go away. There are a lot of questions that are unanswered. And Shoffner right now, she's not really getting too many defenders from either party. She's a Democrat in her second term. And one of the interesting things at this meeting was you even had at least one Democratic lawmaker in there kind of scratching her head publicly over what the explanation was for this. The governor has said that he thinks these are fair questions to ask. And it's kind of he said he's concerned as well too. So. I think the auditors, they're going to be looking at this. They voted to expand their inquiry to 4 years to see what happened with other transactions. And, I'm sure there are going to be some more questions on it. Shoffner she said she wants to correct the problems, but I think there are lawmakers who really want some more answers and a lot more specificity from her on what exactly she did and why.
And on what the problems may be as well. So, and kind of at the center of all this is a smaller investment house up in Russellville called St. Bernard's.
Yeah.
And they have gotten really kind of an extraordinary amount of this bond business from the state treasurer's office. That is also what's at the center of this investigation as well.
Yeah, there have been a lot of questions about it. As you said, it's a small firm, and I think the number was about $1.6, $1.7 billion in business that they had gotten with the treasurer's office through investments. And there's a lot of questions about that, how they were chosen, why they were chosen, and just kind of the connection between her office and that firm.
Certainly going to be something we'll keep an eye on. Let's move to another development this week on the political front, and that was for casinos in Arkansas. You were a little bit busy with running back and forth between here and the Supreme Court. Tell me, we've got one casino amendment proposal that is kicked off the ballot. Yep. We've got another one that's still in limbo. Kind of give me an update on where that stands. Are we going to vote on casinos this November?
We may find out on Thursday. And these are two separate amendments, and both essentially would do the same thing. Michael Wasserman, who is a Texas businessman who's been trying for several years now to get a casino legalization proposal on the ballot, he lost his lawsuit before the Supreme Court this week. His proposal would have given him the exclusive right to operate casinos in 7 Arkansas counties. The state had rejected his petition, said that he did not turn in enough signatures, did not meet a key signature requirement. He had sued over that. The Supreme Court agreed with the state and said that they were correct to not give him additional time. So this means we're not going to be voting on this. It's still going to appear on the ballot, but because it's too late to take it off the ballot.
Votes won't be counted.
Votes won't be counted. Right. What's up in the air now is a nearly identical proposal by Nancy Todd, who's a professional poker player. Her proposal would give her the right to operate casinos in 4 counties. There's actually 2 lawsuits over that. She has sued the state for rejecting the language of her proposal, and that primarily centers on the question of would it affect the so-called electronic games of skill, video poker, video blackjack, that you see at Oak Lawn and Southland. The Supreme Court's heard her oral arguments in her lawsuit, and they could rule as early as this Thursday on it. If she wins that lawsuit, there's still another lawsuit, this kind of never-ending lawsuits on ballot measures, that's been filed by a campaign that's funded by Oaklawn, opposed to her proposal. They've sued the court, challenging the language of her proposal on the same grounds that the state rejected her proposal. But they're also questioning her signatures, saying that there are problems with the petitions that she had turned in. So this thing may be over, or it may just be round 1.
It's a reporter's dream come true and nightmare all at the same time. You got plenty to write about, but it's extremely confusing.
Oh, definitely.
Another topic that I wanted to bring up is let's talk about what's happening more generally in some state politics. We're going to get to the poll numbers in just a second here, but we've got in the state legislative races that are going on throughout the state, you've got this extreme competition between who's going to control the legislature, Democrats or Republicans, and we are seeing a lot of that play out in direct mail pieces. Some radio is now starting to hit. It certainly it has been in some of the social media circles that we've seen. You've written an analysis piece recently called "The Democrats' Last Stand," that this is where they are really drawing the lines in the sand more here at the state legislative level than they are at the congressional or presidential level in Arkansas. Kind of give me that primer, that background on just defining what this race is all about for the Democrats and for the Republicans.
Well, for Democrats, it's just like you said, it's a last stand. Arkansas is a state where Republicans have been making gains more and more in recent years. And the South is a region that's been going more and more Republican. Arkansas has kind of been the exception to the rule. It's the only state of the old Confederacy that has a Democrat-controlled legislature and a Democrat in the governor's mansion. And that's held up even when the state has gone Republican presidential contests. The last time we went for a Democrat in Arkansas was when Bill Clinton was running.
Right.
And that's why it's almost exclusively Democrats are focused on the legislature and control of the legislature. You don't hear talk about the congressional races. You don't hear talk about the presidential race. It's almost, it's basically dozens of House and Senate races that really, are getting this focus that most years we haven't gotten. 2 years ago, you'd open your mailbox and you'd get stuff about Congress, about U.S. Senate. Now it's almost exclusively your state House race, your state Senate race.
Right. And then for the Democrats, they're really trying to tie these state legislative candidates to Governor Mike Beebe, who's extremely popular. Mm-hmm. Republicans are trying to tie these state legislative candidates on the Democratic side to Obama, who is extremely unpopular. Yeah. Who do you think is going to win out?
I don't know who's going to win out, but it really is kind of turning into the Beebe versus Obama kind of messaging. We at my office I've got a stack of direct mail pieces that come in, and Democrats direct mail talk about the Beebe agenda. Tout his record on tax cuts, tout his record on the state doing better compared to other states in terms of finances. Republicans, they mention Obama, and they try to tie Democrats here to Obama as much as possible. And the reason for that, is they see the poll numbers. Obama is very unpopular here, has not been here as president, and even some Democrats, aren't that enthusiastic about Obama here.
You had written in your analysis piece that if Hillary Clinton had become president in 2008, that it might be a different scenario. That was something that Attorney General Dustin McDaniel had made the observation of. Yeah,
that's something that had come up. I'd asked McDaniel, who actually had chaired Hillary Clinton's campaign in Arkansas in 2008. I asked him would Democrats be in a better position now if she had been the nominee instead of Obama, and he said absolutely. He had said that he didn't think the president's really made that much of an attempt to connect with people here, and that combined with outside groups coming in and really spending a lot of money on these races makes it difficult for a lot of candidates who on paper would be good candidates for state legislature. They're having to work a lot harder than they've had to before just because of this environment.
Right. All right, about 60 seconds left here. Let's talk about the congressional poll numbers that we just popped up in the earlier block here. Anything surprise you in that?
Not really, and it kind of backs up kind of what we were talking about with the focus being on the legislature. The Democrats facing a very difficult environment, even in the 1st District where, Scott Ellington had kind of been the hope for Democrats to reclaim a seat that they had lost 2 years ago. The fact that, I think, the highest that Democrat got in 8-year polling was 28.5%. Right. It's looking like a very tough environment right now if those numbers hold up.
All right. He is Andrew DeMillo. He is the Capitol Bureau correspondent for Associated Press. Thank you, as always, for being with us.
Thank you very much.